Hi, welcome to Music Theory Lesson 1, and this is just a basic introduction to music theory. Now let's get this out of the way first. Music theory is not the most difficult thing. A lot of people think that music theory is just this incredibly difficult thing to learn, and really it's not. It's like anything else. As long as you put your time in and practice, you'll pick it up. You'll pick it up very quickly, or at least that's what we hope, right? So, let's music theory. Now, why do we need to study music theory? Is probably the first question that we have. Well, there are many reasons I can give you for why you want to study music theory, which I'm going to give you two right now. We can go on for days. But two main reasons I think for learning music theory are we get a better understanding of music, and we understand why composers write things the way they do, and why things happen in music. And our second reason is going to be music is a language, and like any language, it's good. Music is the language of musicians, and by learning the language of musicians, you'll be able to communicate with musicians, and you'll be able to collaborate, and you'll learn the vocabulary, and it's just easier to learn music theory so you can collaborate with musicians and better understand each other is probably the best thing for learning music theory. Okay, so we got to better understand music and to communicate easier with musicians. Now, let's break this down, music theory, because it's like this mystical word that is it's very simple if you break these two words down. We have music. Now, there's many definitions you can get for music, but this is the definition I like to use. Everyone might not agree with it, but this is the definition I like to use. Music is a collection of sounds with the intent of being musical. Now, you might say it's not good to use the word musical in the definition for music, but music can serve many purposes. It can be to entertain, to express a feeling, or various things. So we're just going to use the word musical right now. It may not be exactly proper, but for our uses, this is going to be a good word, musical, right here. Now, this word sound is very important because that's what music is really based off of, is sounds. Now, for our purposes, we're going to change the word sound to the word note, okay? So we're going to say that music is a collection of notes, or one note, with the intent of being musical, or if it's perceived as being musical. Now, I say it has to be perceived or with the intent of being musical because I think you can hear sounds and they're not necessarily music. But also you can use those sounds to write music or create music. So I think it has to have the intent or be perceived as music to be music. Now look at this word notes right here. Now there's many terms you can use to describe how a note is, just like how you can describe any object. If you see an elephant, you can describe that elephant as being large, and you can say that that elephant is gray. And there's many things you can use to describe the elephant, as long as there's just the same as there's many ways to describe a note. Well, right now we're going to focus on two of those things, right? Those two things to describe a note are going to be pitch. And pitch is basically the highness or the lowness of a note. Lowness. To the highness or the lowness of a note. Now, there are very few people that are actually tone deaf, so you can probably hear the highness or the lowness of a note. And number two is the length of the note. Hold on one second. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, the length of the note. That is if a note is long, or the note is short. As you note, long note or short note. And those are two basic ways to describe a note right now. And that's very, very basic, and it's going to fit for our purposes. So music is a collection of notes which can be described as short, long, high, or low with intent to be music. In theory, your basic definition of theory is just going to be how music works, how it fits. Music's very scientific, and by knowing the theory, we know how it fits. Let's go ahead and delete this right here. Now, music is, like I said, music is a language. So you can hear language and you can hear music. Just like if I say the word cat, or if you hear a note, or you can read the word cat, or you can read the note on a page. It's the same basic idea as you can hear it or you can read it on paper. It's the same premise of like the English language. Well, when we have music on a page, it's called notation. Now, the best way to introduce notation is let's just take any kind of graph that you might have seen. Any kind of graph. It just looks like, oops, that's an awful little. Get that real quick. That's an awful line. Obviously, cannot draw a straight line. And here we go. Just kind of like any kind of graph. Any kind of graph. Now let's use a stock as an example. Any kind of like a stock that you would buy. So we have our x-axis right here, and then we have our y-axis right here. Oops, I'm clicking buttons everywhere. We have our y-axis right here. Now generally x, most graphs are time, right? So we have our time. I'm going to read this graph left and right. So if it's days of the month, we'd have the first day, the second day, third, and so on and so forth. And then this y-axis right here is what we are measuring. And this one is going to be stock price. And then you have like $10 and $20 and $30 right here and $40 and so on and so forth. So you have time right here on your x-axis. And you have price right here. So say throughout the month, your stock will go up and down and all this right here in any kind of point. You can say at the third day right here it was between 20 and 30. And that's just the basics of any kind of graph like this. You have your time on your x-axis, and your y right here is really the measurement of whatever you're measuring, right? Well, music is very similar. Instead of a little graph like that, we have what we call the staff. And here it is right here. I guess I kind of erased that graph. Let me get back here real quick. Now we have our graph, our little, real quick. We have our music staff right here. Now this is basically the same thing. It's 5 lines right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. And this is basically the same thing. You have an X and a Y right here. Use a different color. Let's use red. You have X and Y. And you basically see this just like the stock example we had. And you have notes anywhere over here that could be in the space or on the line. And as we can see, this is time. And this is pitch. And we can tell by just the staff right here that this note right here comes before this note because it's over here on our time right here. And this note right here is higher than both this note and this note because our pitch is right here on the higher side right here. So this is just a basic introduction to music theory. And we'll get more into that later on in our next lesson. So if you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to go shoot them down in the comments right there, and I'll be sure to help you out. All right, well, thank you. See you guys in the next lesson.